welcome to the Fourth Branch program, the first and only program dedicated exclusively to those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a dedication for a more perfect union. Tonight we will be debating part 7 of similarities between Adolf Hitler, Chancellor of Germany in 1933, and Donald Trump, President of the United States. First, we need to set the detail behind the reason we decide to discuss the similarities between those two men. It wasn't by sheer accident, and it was not taken because of quote unquote something a damn liberal decide to do because we don't like Donald Trump. Each and every topic discussed in the Fourth Branch program has one objective, one specific objective, is to educate so that we can achieve a more perfect union. So this topic, the similarities between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler, actually were conceived well before the nomination of Donald Trump as President of the United States. So why is it important to know? Well, George Santayana said that those who cannot remember the past will be forced to relive it. In other words, we should learn something from the past to prevent history from repeating itself, especially in the case of Adolf Hitler. Now, conversation that I had with a few of Trump supporters who tend to think that there is no comparison whatsoever between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler because, quote unquote, Adolf Hitler didn't kill 6 million Jews and Donald Trump rather didn't kill 6 million Jews, and Donald Trump is not a dictator. Now there is only one simple answer to that question or to that statement, which I presented this morning in part 6. Just a side note, for all the previous episodes on this in regard to this documentary, the similarities between Adolf Hitler and Donald Trump, all previous episodes can be found on the People Branch YouTube channel. Again, that's the People Branch YouTube channel if you want to see any of the previous video. And this video also will be archived there for future reference. Now, this morning we started the conversation and we ended at a point where a gentleman by the name of Paul von Hindenburg was elected President of Germany. We had talked quite a bit about Adolf Hitler from his childhood to now him being the leader of the Nazi Party. So if you want to get a little bit more information about those details, because we have talked about them in great detail on the previous episode of this series. So tonight we want to give you just a small, a brief overview of what we had talked about this morning so that we can move the process forward. Paul von Hindenburg was a general in the German army, known for his strategy, known for always being one of the shrewdest general who, when he crafted a plan for war, he always got it right. At some point, he was even regarded in Germany as an icon, as a god. So He retired in 1911, was called back in 1914 during World War I so that he could help out, although that didn't work out too well. But nevertheless, he did manage to help spare the soldier's life and sign the agreement and the Treaty of Versailles, and that slapped a war reparation fee on Germany. And Paul von Hindenburg went back into retirement, and he was called again in 1925. He came back into the political scene in 1925, where he was elected the second president of Germany. So Germany was pretty much really in terms of a republic, it was pretty much a young republic. The first president of Germany was someone by the name of Friedrich Ebert, was the very first president of Germany. Now, Friedrich Ebert, although we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about him, he came to become president of Germany when during the World War I, there was Germany at that time was ruled by emperors, by king. So the last emperor of Germany was someone named Kaiser Wilhelm II. So during that time that the war was tough, although he called on Paul von Hindenburg to help out, but since things didn't work out too well, for some odd reason, he fled Germany at the end of the war. So as to what happened to Kaiser Wilhelm II, well, let's just say we didn't really spend time trying to figure that out, but he fled Germany and never heard from again. And it's not really important for the discussion we have here. So Friedrich Ebert, after Kaiser fled Germany, he was elected president, which he was the first president of Germany in 1919. So he stayed the president of Germany until 1925. That's actually he died the first president of Germany. So the second president of Germany was that general who everybody considered as a god, as an icon. He was elected the second president of Germany. And at that time, in 1925, he was already 77 years old. So needless to say that he took upon the rule of Germany because, of course, a number of things have happened. He was always there to pick up the pieces, so to speak, because every time that Germany was in trouble, he was always the person that they called on to help out. So he did help out during World War I, and when Friedrich Ebert died, again, they called on him to run the country. So as a patriot, he accepted and he was elected the second president of Germany. So of course at the end of his term, and I must say that Germany has a 5-year term which can only be renewed once. In other words, anyone elected president of Germany could only serve 10 years. So, but in the case of Paul, after serving the first 5 years, he started when he was 77 years old. So at that time, he was heading towards becoming 82, 83 years old. So he didn't really want to stay in politics, because the only reason he came out and became a public figure is because he was helping Germany out. That's what he was doing all his life. First as a soldier, and now as and then as president of Germany. But as I explained earlier, that they actually asked Paul to stick around because there was a gentleman by the name of Adolf Hitler. The political elite didn't want that gentleman to become a president of Germany because they feared that his rhetoric were so divisive, his rhetoric was so scary, was so over the top. They figured if that guy became president of Germany, it would not be the same country. So they begged Paul to stick around. And of course, Paul, being a good soldier, he did as required, as requested. So Paul won a second term as president of Germany. So I actually give enough detail this morning to kind of gear towards the fact that Adolf Hitler at that time, because of his popularity, he had almost the whole country behind him. In fact, that's the very reason that they asked Paul to stick around, because he was the only one who could prevent Adolf Hitler from becoming president of Germany. So he stuck around, and sure enough, he was successful. He actually got a second term. So now the Nazi leaders were asking Adolf Hitler to do something that they figured was the only way to get back and become the ruling party in the country. Because if you recall, I mentioned that the Nazi Party had a lot of, because of Hitler, had a lot of popular support, but in terms of political muscle, they didn't have much. By 1932, 1933, Adolf Hitler was only one of 3 people who were member of the cabinet in the government. So they did not really have too much political muscle, but popular support, Adolf Hitler had that, and the Nazi leader wanted him to take advantage of that and try to overthrow the government. Adolf Hitler said no. He declined. In fact, he even threatened at some point to leave the Nazi Party if the leaders were too eager to go that route. He threatened that if they did go forward with the plan, then Adolf Hitler would not be part of that. So they gave up the plan because they know without Adolf Hitler, all the popular support that they had would just vanish. And whichever party, or whether it's an independent party, or if Adolf Hitler wanted to go it alone, there is a pretty good chance that he could have created another party, and the Nazi Party would have obviously lost its position in the political scene. So they gave up the idea as well. But Adolf Hitler didn't just give up the idea of overthrowing the government, but he was looking for a different way of rising to power. 2 things were actually happening that opened the door for Adolf Hitler to be able to rise. Number 1, the president of Germany, Paul von Hindenburg, was not in good health. In fact, he was old, and he didn't have good health. He was spending most of his time seeing doctors, being in bed, resting, and so on. So what ended up happening is, that's number 1. Number 2, there was also something that was going on at that time that ended up helping Adolf Hitler rise even further in popularity. Now, if you remember, here in the United States, 1929 was considered a dark year in the country. The bottom fell off. Now, the United States was not the only country that suffered the Great Depression. The Great Depression actually hit the whole world, and Germany was not exempt either. So you have a president now who is not in good health, and now you have the leader of a very popular party. Now, the only reason that Adolf Hitler wasn't president is because Paul von Hindenburg happened to be a little bit more popular than he was and happened to have been an icon before Adolf Hitler even rose to that kind of popularity. And of course, he was considered the only person who could save Germany from any kind of war that Germany had to go through. But unfortunately, as I mentioned, Paul von Hindenburg was not in good health. So Adolf Hitler took that as a cue for him to move and try to play a much bigger role in the government. So he approached Paul not to strip him of his power, but rather to offer his help in running the government. So as you can see, Adolf Hitler was a very shrewd politician by the time that he became the leader of the Nazi Party. So he proposed to Paul that he could help him run the government. Of course, Paul didn't really have a lot of choices because again, he spent a lot of time in bed. He couldn't really run the government properly. But despite that fact, Paul wasn't buying it because he felt that Hitler had a different, had something in mind. Because remember, Hitler did challenge Paul in the election. So Paul, he wasn't an icon in Germany. He wasn't the best war strategist in Germany just because of his name. He was recognized as such because of the kind of performance that he had as a general then and later as the president of the second president of Germany. So of course he wasn't buying what Hitler was telling him. He actually had a problem that he wasn't suffering, he wasn't in good health. And on top of that, Hitler being now having become a shrewd politician, he was rallying support from past chancellor, from other politicians, so that they could put pressure on Paul to kind of give him a chance to prove himself, because that's the way Hitler actually approached the whole concept of helping. Yes, we know that we fought during a campaign, during a heated debate in campaign, but we both have the same goal. We want Germany to become really better. So I want to promise you, that's Hitler talking, I want to promise you that I will take whatever you have as agenda and make sure that that's worked out. So not only that Hitler really did a very good job convincing Paul. Remember, I mentioned the reason that Hitler had become so popular is because, number one, he was very charismatic. He was very good. He was a good orator. And on top of that, he was charming, according to a number of stories, that he was a very charming person. And added to that, now he presented a very humble aspect of his life, showing that to someone who defeated him, not only did he prevent his party from going through the process of overthrowing in the government, which I'm very certain that that's a piece of information that had gone and become known in the political scene, and now he is humbling himself to serve the president of Germany. Now, even those two wouldn't have helped Adolf Hitler get hold of power, but he also courted a number of other politicians, including the former Chancellor of Germany, to help him out. And sure enough, the former chancellor of Germany, that was during the time that the first president of Germany, Friedrich Ebert, during his time, his chancellor, now who happened to be a former chancellor, now looking at the nationalism of Adolf Hitler, felt almost as if what Adolf Hitler had in store would actually be good for Germany. But not everybody in Germany felt that way. Paul was actually one of those people who didn't trust Adolf Hitler, but he gave in to political pressure. And he named Adolf Hitler Chancellor of Germany on January 30th, 1933. Well, he didn't really have much choice. He couldn't be on his feet. He couldn't really lobby for other people. There was only just Adolf Hitler looking to become Chancellor of Germany. That's number one. And number two, he wasn't really putting forward someone who wanted to overtake the government. He was putting forward an individual who wanted to take Germany to the next level. Now, all that would help. Now, added to the fact that he had the help of the former chancellor that keep hounding Paul von, that yes, Adolf Hitler would be a good person to have at your side to help fulfill whatever agenda, whatever policy that you have for the country. That's really a good person to have. On top of that, he is very popular. Whatever he tried to do, people will support it. Now, I don't know if Paul von knew that he would never get become any better. His health would ever recover. Whether he knew that or not, whether he suspect that or not, was everybody guess. Even a historian couldn't possibly come up with the conclusion that Paul von knew that he was going to die, because obviously as an old man, he knew that he wasn't enjoying good health, but that's part of getting old. But the problem that Paul had was that he could read Adolf Hitler pretty clearly, that he could read where Adolf Hitler was heading, what he had in mind, despite the fact that he was humbling himself in front of him and try to pretend that he wanted to serve his government. But again, Paul succumbed, gave in to pressure, because when you have former chancellor coming to you and you have other people coming to you and you're hearing the cry of the support that Adolf Hitler had, telling you day in, day out that this is the person we want to be the Chancellor of Germany, now laying there in bed, you don't have much choice. So again, on January 30th, 1933, Paul gave in and named Adolf Hitler Chancellor of Germany. But there was also something else that was going on in Germany that makes it even sweeter for for Adolf Hitler, is the fact that the whole world was going through Great Depression. People were out of work. It's the young German, it's like unemployment was 50+% for the young generation. So they didn't have much patience for any government. In fact, they blamed the government for their plight. So Paul was in a very precarious situation, that opposing Adolf Hitler was something that he believed was the right thing to do. But he didn't have much choice, because there was a lot of screaming out there, especially the young people who could not find a job. And Adolf Hitler was telling them that I have a plan. Now, that sounds very familiar to what we experienced here with Donald Trump during the time he was campaigning for president. Adolf Hitler kept promising. Now, the difference between Adolf Hitler then and Donald Trump, and that's the reason that it was so unbelievable that people actually went for what Donald Trump was promising them. Because at the time that Donald Trump was running for the office of the presidency in the United States, the economy was recovering pretty nicely. In fact, even after he got nominated, and as of date, we see that the curve of the economy going up has never let up. It had started really a couple of years prior to Obama exiting the White House, and since then it has been going up. So the difference between the time that Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany and the time that here in the United States that people decided to go with Donald Trump, that's really the major difference. And the difference is not between the candidates, it's rather the difference in terms of how people from two different eras decided to put someone so out of touch in power. Now, when I say out of touch, granted that Adolf Hitler was speaking the language of the era that he lived in, because yes, there was Great Depression, there was a lot of unemployment in Germany, and people felt it. I even mentioned in previous episode that Adolf Hitler was actually homeless on the street. His mother couldn't even collect a pension check that her husband, who passed a year prior, left behind, and Adolf Hitler was homeless. So the Adolf Hitler era was different from the Donald Trump era. The Donald Trump era, you have an economy that was recovering, people, unemployment was going way down. By the time that Obama left the Oval Office, unemployment was at 4.8%. So there is no comparison there. But the two men had the same approach. They use fear. They exploit people's emotion. They exploit people's fear in order to advance their own personal agenda. So he was Adolf Hitler, who took advantage of the fact that situation was bad all around, and was telling those people that he had a plan. And his plan was pretty straightforward. He had a plan. The plan was that the wealthy people, the Jewish people who were depleting the country of its wealth, he's going to take care of that. And on top of that, he's going to get rid of this war reparation fee that the League of Nations slapped on Germany. And there were a bunch of other aspects of the life in Germany that he didn't like. He promised to those people that he would take care of that. Now, when you have a need, when you are unemployed, and you have someone who come to you and promise you that he's going to make things better, now you imagine that's the case. Besides, you don't have a choice. And there is nobody else promising that. Remember that at that time, they actually blamed the German government for the situation they were in. They blaming the government for the situation, and Adolf Hitler proposed a solution. Now, who do you think they were going with? No matter what the government, how much the government didn't want to have Adolf Hitler as chancellor, there were too many people, too much popular support to prevent that from happening. In contrast, here in the United States, there was no reason for anybody to have gone with Donald Trump, because nothing that he promised that he would do would make any difference in any of those people's lives, because the economy was already going upward. With Donald Trump or anybody else for that matter, the economy would have continued to go upward. So regardless, both Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler got what they were after. Donald Trump became president of the United States, and Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. January 30th, 1933, Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. Now, stick around for just a bit, because you just don't want to miss what it's now that we're gonna see a very good comparison between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler, because all this time we've been doing that comparison between those two men. The only thing that we could extract here and there, it's bits and pieces of their behavior, the way of talking, and so on. But now we establish that Adolf Hitler had finally got to where he was aiming. He became Chancellor of Germany without having to overthrow the government as the Nazi wanted to. And remember, I keep saying and actually making the point for all those Trump supporters who think that once they hear the word Adolf Hitler, they said he was a dictator, he killed 6 million Jews, and there is no way that we can compare Adolf Hitler with Donald Trump. Now, I keep bringing that up for the simple reason that I want to make the very point that Adolf Hitler didn't start as a dictator. He didn't start as a monster. He started exactly as like any other politician. He did his homework and he became Chancellor of Germany. Just like Donald Trump ran for the presidency of the United States, became the nominee of the Republican Party, and ultimately became President of the United States. So both men went the right route. So get out of your mind the idea that whenever you hear about Adolf Hitler, and the reason you think that you cannot possibly compare Adolf Hitler with Donald Trump is because Adolf Hitler was a dictator. He was a monster. He killed 6 million Jews. Donald Trump didn't do any such thing. Yet, hopefully never, but the bottom line is, now they are exactly at the same point in life. We were not there talking about Adolf Hitler until now, because up to that point, Adolf Hitler was a leader of the Nazi Party. But as I keep pointing out, the Nazi Party was a very marginal party in Germany, in Germany politics. So they didn't have muscle. They didn't have politics muscle. Adolf Hitler changed the whole dynamic of things because he made the Nazi Party the most popular party in the country. But that still wouldn't give him the opportunity to become the president of Germany. But through political maneuver, he was appointed, named Chancellor of Germany. So stick around for a moment. I'll come back in just a quick moment to talk about Adolf Hitler as Chancellor of Germany. He spent a great deal of time as Chancellor of Germany from 1933 to the time he actually lost control. According to history, he committed suicide in 1945. But we're going to spend a great deal of time talking about his rule between 1933 and 1945. And in the process of doing that, we will be comparing what he was doing as Chancellor of Germany and compare those things that he was doing with what we currently observing, witnessing with Donald Trump as President of the United States. You are on the Fourth Branch, and we are debating the similarities between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler, Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Join me here on the 4th branch at 10:30 a.m. and 6:30 p.m. every Saturday.
I'm Jeff Gannett, CEO of Macy's, and I wanted to take a moment of your time to thank you for being such an amazing customer, because I truly believe that Macy's customers are the greatest in the world. Recently, you said you wanted a simpler rewards program. Well, I'm here to say that we've heard you, and starting this month, we're introducing the new and improved Macy's Star Rewards, a reimagined, simpler rewards program starring you. You said you wanted more savings. All members at every level get 25% off any day you choose with Star Passes. You said you wanted free shipping. Gold status means getting free shipping with no minimum, plus the silver status benefit. You said you wanted better rewards. Platinum status means 5% back in rewards every day on all Macy's merchandise, no exclusions, plus gold and silver status benefits. We want Macy's customers to know they are the best customers in the world. And we want each and every one of our cardholders to know that with the new Macy's Star Rewards, it is your time to shine.
Meet the new Macy's Star Rewards, exclusive to cardholders. Discover your status today at Macys.com/Star Rewards.
Wayfair, let me show you how I do my thing. Check it. Wayfair my this, Wayfair my that. Wayfair my this, Wayfair my that. Wayfair my this, Wayfair my that. Wayfair it all. Here we go now. Wayfair my this, Wayfair my that. Wayfair my this, Wayfair my that.
Don't just shop for your home. Wayfair your home. Find everything you need and more at wayfair.com today.
Don't go anywhere. The 4th branch program will return in just a moment.
When we were dating, we used to get excited about things like concert tickets or a new snowboard. But that all changed when we bought a house.
Voila!
Matt started turning into his dad.
That's some good mulch. I'm awake. But it was pretty nifty when Jen showed me how easy it was to protect our home and auto with Progressive. Get this butterscotch out of here.
Progressive can't protect you from becoming your parents.
Took quite a bit of work, because this was a lot. This is all staple.
But we can protect your home and auto when you bundle with us.
Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the 4th Branch Project, the first and only program which is dedicated exclusively to those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. The 4th Branch Project seeks to emphasize country over party. Its primary objective is to restore interest in civic duty and involvement in social, political issues, discussion, debate, which might impact lives in this generation and quite possibly in future ones. Put differently, the 4th Branch Project is a journey towards restoring America's greatness, where patriotism is the foundation of every decision, every policy, every word, every action. Said differently, it is a journey to save democracy in America. Stay with us. We will be right back. Hello again. Thank you for sticking with us. We are talking the similarities between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler. We just got to the point where Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. This is a very important point to get to in terms of the discussion between the similarities between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler. The reason is because up to this point, we've been talking about those two men almost exclusively separately, because there was not really many things similar with those two men. They came from two different backgrounds. Adolf Hitler came from a poor family. At some point, he was a homeless begging on the street. Donald Trump, on the other hand, came with a silver spoon in his mouth. So those two men have not much in common when it comes to where they came from as far as their background. But now they are exactly at the same point in life. One was the ruler of Germany, at least the second most powerful man in Germany. It's something that I will get to and explain later, because the president of Germany would be the first and the chancellor would be the second. Well, that's the way it sounds. In reality, it's not so. In fact, in reality, the chancellor of Germany is the person that actually runs the country. For instance, today we have the chancellor Angela Merkel. That's the chancellor of Germany. Now, most likely, I would almost bet that most people never even think or even heard of the president of Germany. The current president of Germany is a gentleman by the name of Frank-Walter Steinmeier. Now, this is a name that doesn't come often in the news, and the reason is because he is president of Germany. Angela Merkel is the chancellor of Germany. So Angela Merkel is the person that's doing everything that political, everything both inside Germany and outside Germany. That's the only person you hear about, Chancellor of Germany. So he was Adolf Hitler named Chancellor of Germany, and the Chancellor of Germany has plenty of power. Now, what is the role of a president in that case? Well, I invite you to come back for the next session of debating similarities between Donald Trump and Adolf Hitler next Saturday at 10:30 a.m., which is our next session, where we will not only explain as to which role the president of Germany played, but at the same time, we will also tackle the very aspect of Adolf Hitler as Chancellor of Germany in 1933. Let the fun begin. So thank you for watching. I hope you have a good rest of the weekend, and I hope to see you next time. That was MD bringing you Adolf Hitler versus Donald Trump. Stay safe.
Wayfair.